Charlie Sheen. In 1916, the circus came to town in Erwin, Tennessee. Something happened, and then one of the circus's elephants flipped out, and one of the elephant handlers was dead. This wasn't the first man the elephant had killed while in the employ of the circus. Differing accounts say she killed anywhere between 3 and 18 men prior to the incident in Erwin. There is a handful of accounts of the death of Red Eldridge, and they're all weirdly disparate. But then there was the question of what to do with the elephant, named Mary. Options they considered included shooting, electrocution, and dismemberment, but they were all considered either unduly cruel or impractical. Ultimately, it was decided that she would be hung from a crane car at the nearby rail yard. Even the hanging, attended by some 2,500 people, is poorly and inconsistently attested. A purported photograph of the hanging may, in fact, be a forgery. Did Mary the elephant actually exist? Who knows? What about Erwin, Tennessee? I'm beginning to doubt even I exist. It used to be mushrooms, then sniffing glue, then huffing paint and butane. Now? Brace yourself. Bath salts. Wow. In an effort to bring down the numbers of soldiers coming home from Iraq and Afghanistan with PTSD, and to reduce the incidence of suicide and violent breakdowns, a fellow named Martin Seligman has been brought in by the Army to institute his totally made-up Learned Optimism program, which starts with an online survey with over 100 questions, then an evaluation based on the answers. This may be followed by training soldiers to achieve a desired level of spirituality. Yes, that's right. Atheists who respond honestly, "This is not at all like me," to a statement like, "I'm a spiritual person. My life has lasting meaning. I believe that in some way my life is closely connected to all humanity and all the world." Get a free trip to engage in forced participation in training sessions that use religious imagery to encourage greater spirituality. Yeah. Room 101. Nice. Why don't you just strap a rat cage to my face and convince me that 2 + 2 is 5? Apparently, CNN commentator Erick Erickson was a little disappointed in the reaction to the assassination attempt on U.S. Representative from Arizona Gabrielle Giffords in Tucson last month. Specifically, Erickson was concerned that people were not talking about the one thing that should be talked about: a saving faith in Jesus Christ. Okay, well, that's a glaringly dumb and divisive thing to say, but let's slide that over for a moment. Jameson Foser of MediaMatters.org noticed Erickson's rather sectarian verp and made a remark of his own, stating that Representative Giffords is Jewish, and somewhere between 15 and 20% of Americans don't really give Jesus a thought. Erickson got wind of this and opened the floodgates on his reservoir of incomprehensible insults, calling Media Matters the Washington, D.C. branch of Westboro Baptist Church. Westboro Baptist, for the uninitiated, is the so-called God Hates Fags outfit that protests at funerals of soldiers. Seems like that's kind of the pot calling the sun cuddly. He also referred to the folks at Media Matters as atheists and Twinkie eaters. What? Yeah. Erickson further advocated engaging in home invasions on state legislators and beating them to a bloody pulp outside their homes. This guy makes Glenn Beck look like the Dalai Lama on Quaaludes. North Carolina State Representative Larry Brown has stated that his legislative agenda includes cutting off state funds to treat HIV patients living in perverted lifestyles. Just let that sink in for a bit. Swish it around in your mouth. President Obama, in his State of the Union address, sought to unite the country following the events in Tucson and to reinvigorate hope for a prosperous future in so many millions of Americans suffering financial ruination at the hands of big banks and big corporations, and through their own greed and bad judgment. The thing that President Obama chose to use as a touchstone in the segment of the speech dedicated to getting America moving again? Sputnik. He called this our Sputnik moment. Among the literally hundreds of Americans actually listening to the speech, possibly a dozen or more went to their computers and looked up Sputnik to discover that America once had a vibrant and energetic space program which employed hundreds of thousands and advanced materials science, electronic technology, medicine, manufacturing techniques, aeronautics, and even geology and other earth sciences, to say nothing of its serving as an inspiration to millions to pursue careers in science, technology, and research. So, what kind of bold moves does President Obama have in mind to meet the challenge of this generation's Sputnik moment? Well, here's one thing. In 24 years, he wants 80% of America's electricity to come from clean energy sources. All right, that'll never happen. Check. Here's another. Improving education. All right. Completely nebulous and virtually impossible to measure. Check. Oh, this is a good one. In 25 years, give 80% of Americans access to high-speed rail service. Yep. Okay. Nobody rides the train now. In 25 years, they'll just not ride it twice as fast. So, I think this is it. For the first time in 30 years, we won't have a means of lofting a single person out into low Earth orbit without the aid of another country which for some 50 years was our mortal enemy, and that even now isn't all that hot. And at this time, President Obama chooses to point to Russian achievement as an inspiration to do better here. And what sort of better does he mean? Trains no one will ride, nebulous and immeasurable education goals, and giving America's electric utilities yet another quarter of a century to get off fossil fuels, maybe, depending on what he means by clean? Way to inspire, Mr. President. Somebody in Great Britain decided it would be really cool to base an animated cartoon on the little iPhone game Angry Birds. I suppose it's possible they could turn something really awful out in a month or two, but if they're going to write and animate and so on, it could be 6 months to a year from inception to air. By then, Angry Birds might be no more popular than Crazy Climber is today. Oh well, it's not my money. Finally, and I do mean finally, we all saw this coming, didn't we? Jack LaLanne, who for over 70 years was an advocate for physical fitness and healthy living, has finally lost his battle with life. He was 96. LaLanne had lived so long that few remember his 70th birthday stunt, in which he reportedly swam a mile, handcuffed and shackled, towing 70 boats. Of course, that was all the way back in 1984. Many viewers may not remember that far back. It was, after all, before the internet. Well, that about wraps it up for this edition of News Undies. Remember, if you see news that shouldn't be news, send your story tips to undies@newsundies.com. The next News Undies comes out Friday, March 4th, so make sure you're here for that. Thanks for watching. Until next time, I'm Paul Torville. After that, I might be riding high-speed rail to a power plant that runs on hugs. Oy. Tastes like home heating oil. They say oil heats best, but it makes rotten coffee.